Going into the co-main, this was probably the most disappointing one of the evening. I'm sorry to keep using that word, that's just the one that keeps ringing through for me. Silva versus Cannonier. And Cannonier catches Silva right at the end of the first round with an inside leg kick, hitting right to the knee. And Silva goes down, very clearly thriving in pain. And within a few seconds, the ref had called the fight. Silva, after the fight, struggling to stand up, constantly calling out in pain, gave a little post-fight interview explaining, or referring to the fact that he had knee problems going into this fight, so had issues in camp. Not a lot to take away from the fight. I think Cannonier did exactly what he needed to do. Go in there strong, put forward your power, use your strong technique, and he landed that leg kick and it put the guy away. He didn't, it's not a freak injury, he got kicked with a legit technique and a legit scoring area, and it did legitimate damage. The conversation comes into play when you think, well, if that hit the leg of a 30-year-old Silva, a 25-year-old Silva, would it have had the same effect? The body over time, no matter how well we look after it or what we do about it, it's wear and tear. And in MMA, that wear and tear is exacerbated massively. So the wear and tear on that knee, and then if he's going into that fight already with an injury, already with issues, and you get a big guy like that give you a strong leg kick right on the button, yeah, things are going to happen. What was really interesting about this night in total, it was a bit of a night of legends, and in a really bad way. We had in the prelims both BJ Penn and Nogueira, and then Silva in the main. Like I said, I'm not counting Jose Aldo in this mix because I really don't believe he is past it. We're talking the over 40s club pretty much, nearly. And it really just shows that age is a factor. So when you do get past that mark and the age does start taking effect, it really, in this game, it means a lot. So yes, you can say a lot for experience, and you can say a lot for knowledge and the fighting spirit and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, there's no doubt about how important the athleticism is and how age affects it. And these guys, no one can doubt their credentials. No one will doubt their CV of performances and what they've done for the sport. But it is very, very clear that they just cannot hang at the top of these divisions anymore. Now, this is where I think it gets a little torn. It's just because you can't stack it up at the top of the division anymore. I certainly don't think that that's cause for retirement. And it's everyone is saying, especially in regards to BJ, who also lost on the weekend against Clay Guida, I believe. They're saying that I don't want to see him fight anymore. I don't want to see him take any more damage and all the rest of it. And I completely sympathize and completely understand with that point of view. But what also needs to be said, and what needs to really be understood, and like the media, they seem to struggle with this because they're just not fighters in this sense. As a fighter, especially if you've been doing it from a young age, as a martial artist from a young age, and you take it through, and not only have you been doing it for a long time, but it's given you everything you have. So your financial freedom, your notability, your worldwide respect, everything that you've gotten has been gifted to you by this martial art and by this sport that you have in turn given everything back to. There is a relationship there of the deepest and highest regards. And to simply ask these men and women to just walk away, it's just not that easy. They don't know anything else, and they don't want to know anything else. They don't want to retire. They don't want to stop fighting. They live for it, and they will die for it. And at the end of the day, if it gets too dangerous, then it's the commission's and it's the UFC's responsibility to stop these men if they believe so. But if these men feel that they're fighting fit and they're passing physicals and they are able to train and they want to volunteer to get into that cage, then I still really don't think it's anyone's right to tell them not to, until the point where physically they are not to, you know? And yes, we understand the risk, the increased massive risk of brain injury, but they also understand this. They are aware of it. And yes, it's, you know, we should protect them from themselves. They're not asking to be protected. They don't want to be protected. You have to understand, these guys are willing to get brain damage to continue doing what they love for as long as possible. They are willing to pay the sacrifices to continue doing what they love for as much as possible. You've got to think of it, you know, let's say that you've got your partner and you love them with all your heart and all your soul, and someone came and said to you, well, we're going to give you this aggressive, violent disease for the next 10 years, but you get to stay with the one you love for 10 years. Otherwise, we take away the one you love and you don't get the illness. Well, I know what I would do. I'd take the illness and I'd be with the one I love for 10 more years. And this is how they feel about the sport. This is how they feel about their martial arts. It's more than just a career. It's more than just a hobby or an activity that they take part in. It's the very essence of who they are and what they do. And to ask someone to just walk away from that, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. And if they're still able to pass physicals, and if they're still able to get licensed by commissions, then all the power to these gentlemen to fight as long as I think they see fit. We're all grown-ups here. We can all make our own decisions. No, I don't want to see fighters getting brain damage, and I don't want to see old men being beaten up by these young bucks. That's not what I'm saying. Maybe there is room for a legends division, a veterans, if you were. So an older men's category just for those men who want to continue to do this. I can respect things like this, but to simply ask them to stop, I don't think that's something that's possible.